I got a girl pregnant that I barely know and she wants to keep the baby back in June. My family and I went on a cruise for vacation. For anyone who hasn't been on a cruise, it's basically a giant all-inclusive party. So while my parents had spa appointments or lounged by the pool, I would just go to the clubs or the pool bar and just have fun. I met a girl on the cruise the first night we were there and we just instantly clicked. She's gorgeous, funny, and we had a lot in common. We exchanged numbers and hung out again the next day too. Her family was staying just one day shy of mine and we pretty much hung out the rest of her trip. We did hook up more than once, so obviously we had a lot of fun together. We Snapchatted some after the trip, but she lives in SC and I live in FL, so we didn't really talk and just kinda moved on. Then one random day while I was working, she called me like 3 times. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, so I thought it was weird. I stepped out into the back and gave her a call. That's when she told me that she was pregnant. I was in complete shock. We used condoms and everything. And also she sounded very excited, not upset or anything. I asked her what she wanted to do and if she needed money, and she was confused. She said that obviously she was keeping it. Well, that's just not something that I agree on. I understand it is her body and her choice, but the logistics just don't make sense. She's 10 weeks now, we've talked on the phone since that first call and I've gone over options with her. She fully expects me to move to SC to be with her and help her raise it. This is my first week of college and I told her I intend to graduate here. I can't afford an out-of-state school, I can't afford to just move, how am I supposed to afford a kid? And we don't even have a relationship. Yes, we got along well, but that's completely different than being a parent with someone. She thinks we can just try co-parenting, but I still would have to move for that to work out. It just seems that she has this big delusional plan and she doesn't understand why it won't just work out. She thinks I'm the one preventing it from working because I refuse to move. I don't know how else to explain to her that this just won't work. Edit, we did use condoms. And a lot of people have asked this, but some were hers and some were mine. I didn't notice anything off about either, but I'll also admit that I fully utilized the open bar the majority of the trip. Also, it was from June 26th to July 2nd. I don't know how pregnancy math works, but the comments are all over the place on that.
My first love got married. Whelp. My first love got married on Saturday. I'm so proud of him, and I'm so glad that he found an amazing, strong woman to be with. I miss talking to him every day, but I genuinely wish him all the best. He's a great person and deserves the word. We met in 2007 and talked literally every single day until 2016. Grade 8, he moved more than 8 hours away. Thanks to the power of MSN, we talked every day and every night. Said I love you every night. It was kid stuff. In 2016, 2 years into university, we made the long drive to see each other and met halfway, at his friend's house. We had a great weekend. It was still all love. Then life happened. He met his now wife when I was there. I came home and met my current boyfriend. We fell out of touch. 2 weeks before his wedding, he reached out and asked if I ever thought we could be together. I told him that I used to, but we have different lives now. There's always going to be love for him, but not like that anymore. Farm boy, I spoke to you for the last time 2 weeks ago. I wish you all the best. I love you. Edit, none of us are monogamous. His wife knows everything about me, my partner knows everything about Farm boy.
My first romantic disaster taught me the most important lesson about love. I married a guy who exceeds anything the teenage version of myself could have drawn up. It is a mild day for the middle of winter and a lazy drizzle is falling over the ice rink in Central Park. Strands of white bulbs twinkle in the mist while the magical glow of the city casts us all in a gentle, gauzy light. It is the stuff of fairy tales, but for me, the night is not destined for a happy ending. I have just lost my first love to another girl. I watch them as they skate around the rink, and even though I'm flanked by my 3 closest friends, I feel alone. We met when I was 16. He was the pastor's son, a guitar player with dark, curly hair. Dark, curly hair at a time when Josh Groban was pretty much everything in my world. So you really can't blame me. To be fair, beyond being cute, he was also very sweet, and most importantly, he noticed the nerdy bookish girl in the corner. Me. Our church youth group consisted of about 50 kids, just large enough that we could be around each other without actually interacting for a while. Then, as they do in the dizzying years of teenage dynamics, things shifted. Suddenly, his attention was on me. The story of our growing interest in each other is a montage with only a few scenes. There is the bonfire in the church parking lot on a cool autumn night, where we stood apart from the crowd and felt our way through the small talk that comes in those early days of flirtation. I can close my eyes and feel that night, the heat of the fire pushing against the chill in the air, the shouts and laughter of the crowd far in the backdrop of our conversation. The sense that something I had only read about in books was finally, at last, happening to me. Then there was my birthday, when he showed up at my job to give me a gift, Hilary Duff's latest CD. I worked at an after-school program, and in the midst of the boisterous playground games, the kids had paused to whisper and giggle at the fact that Miss Nicole had received a visit and a gift from a boy. I had shushed them with mature authority until I was finished for the day and could get on the phone with a friend to whisper and giggle about it myself. Then his birthday party, where the whole group played hide and seek in his wooded backyard. It was November, at that point of transition where you haven't quite given into a winter coat, but you're freezing in your long sleeves when dusk sets in. That was the night he took my hand to help me climb over something. A fallen tree? A rock? The details have faded with time. Anyway, he would probably protest this whole story, because I'm sure he was just being polite, but for a girl who had never had her hand held by a guy, it was pretty major. There was, with it, a realization that cool November nights were better if there was a boy around to hold your hand. Snippets, tiny pieces of memories. And so few. Because the truth is, his interest in me only lasted for a couple of months. At its height, there were those memories, plus phone calls and shy conversations, and absolutely no physical contact. Then, abruptly, everything stopped. No calls, and at church, no conversation. I didn't know what to make of it and certainly didn't know how to approach him about it. So I watched and waited, feeling worried and already approaching heartbreak, but, and oh this makes me so sad for my younger self, still hopeful. First love. Before it, you are content to live on your own, ignorant of the idea that there is any other way. Then there is this whisper of something, a faint idea that there is something more, that it involves linking yourself with someone else, and that, in this grown-up world, that something is called love. Things had cooled to chilly silence by the time Christmas approached, and when our youth group went ice skating, I signed up to go with friends. I knew he would be there, and my youthful optimism allowed me to believe that maybe things would take a turn back in the right direction. Maybe that night we would get back on track. But then the one thing happened that tells every teenager where they stand: the couples skate. People weaved in and out of the crowd, and when the music started, I was where I always had been, standing off to the side, and he was out on the ice. It was an old girlfriend and they were back together. I never did find out if there was anything more to the story than that. I wondered for a long time if I had made some type of mistake with him, if there had been a misunderstanding that had escaped me. But I never knew what happened for sure. Now none of that matters. I can hear my husband downstairs, explaining who Michael Jackson is to our two kids. He's playing them the music video from Free Willy because they are currently obsessed with Orcus. I married a guy who exceeds anything the teenage version of myself could have drawn up. Back then, I didn't know that the whisper of first love was just an introduction to the concept. I couldn't even conceive of a man who would love me enough to take on infant night feedings, to empty dishwashers, and have patient conversations and share inside jokes. I thought I had found love at 18, but I didn't even know what I was looking for. I've walked past that rink in the park many times in the years since my first experience with love. And even though I've moved on, it all comes back to me in that spot. I can feel the drizzle and see the lights. I'm a teenager again. He's out there skating with her, and my heart is breaking. I turn away to get back on the bus to New Jersey with my friends, refusing to allow myself to cry, and I think in the wisdom of youth, now I know what love feels like. Wisdom of youth.
My GF thinks being pregnant is funny or something. My GF keeps making jokes about her being pregnant after we had sex without protection, and it's starting to get to me. It's seriously starting to make me mad and nervous. She knows how much the thought of being young with kids scares me, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why she's doing it. I was telling her this before we had sex, but she was like, well, it's not fair if you don't want to because I want to do this. I bet you blank would agree to it, and how she was on birth control anyways, so I just agreed. To be clear, she was saying this because she didn't want to use protection. I did want to, and we were arguing about it. After we were done, she started laughing about how she skips her birth control pills sometimes. Of course I was like, what's your problem? Why wouldn't you say that before? And she just told me to calm down and that it would be fine. Ever since then, straight jokes about her being pregnant. Just things like eating weird things or posing in the mirror with her hands on her stomach like a pregnant woman. And she's acting like I'm the crazy one and that I'm overthinking it, but it is so obvious she's doing it to mess with me. I do not find this funny or okay, and it's starting to upset me. I'm not trying to put the blame on her. I know it's my fault. I have possibly ruined my life.